review of the psychology of money, and today we're going to be reviewing chapter 14, which is titled You Will Change. Long-term planning is harder than it seems because people's goals and desires change over time. Let me start by asking you this question. When you were growing up, you had a desire, right, of what you wanted to be when you grow up. Now that you have grown up, let me ask you, have you actually become that thing that you really wanted to be when you were growing up? Let me also ask you this. Are you currently practicing what you studied at school? You may want to answer the questions yourself, right? But this chapter 14 is trying to tell us that our plans, our desires, our goals, our ambition can change in life over time. They also said that he grew up with a friend who came from neither privileged nor natural intellect, but he was the hardest working guy that he knew, right? People like this have a lot to teach because they have unfiltered understanding of every inch of the road to success. They were not born with silver spoons in their mouths. They didn't have anybody that said to them, oh, go, don't worry, we'll support you, nothing. But in spite of the odds against them, they were still able, or people like this are still able, to succeed in life. This particular friend of Morgan Housel, his life's mission and dream as a teenager was to become a doctor. And he gave everything that he had, everything he knew, in spite of all the odds against him. No reasonable person at that time, no reasonable person like him, considering his situation, would ever think that it was possible for this guy to become a medical doctor. But he pushed and pushed, and a decade later, pushed and pushed, and even though it was a decade older than his classmates, he eventually became a medical doctor. How much fulfillment comes from starting from nothing, bulldozing your way to the top of medical school, and then achieving one of the most noble professions against all odds? But then one would think that he would be so happy in life, he would be so fulfilled. But no. One day, the author said he spoke to him and was asking after him that, oh, how you doing? How is everything? And he said his career was awful, 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 awful. Now, he found being a doctor to be awful. The stress and hours had worn him into the ground. Of course, it's not easy to be a medical doctor. If you're a serious medical doctor, except you are playing, it is not easy. No career is so easy. But for medical doctors, I think that they have to work long hours and all of that. You know what I mean? So he seemed so disappointed in where he is, referring to that time when he had the call, in where he is today, as he was driven towards where he wanted to be 15 years ago. What really changed? There is an underpinning of psychology, and this is that people are poor forecasters of their own future selves. When we are growing up, oh, I want to be this, I want to be that. And then you grow up, you realize that, why did I even choose this career in the first place? Or why did I even choose this man that I got married to? But before you got married to him, you were so in love with him. Head over heels in love, right? If anybody had told you don't marry him, you would have said, no, they are enemies of progress. But here you're asking yourself, what did I even see in this woman? What did I even see in this man? So imagining a goal is easy and fun, but imagining a goal in the context of real life stresses that grow with competition and the pursuit of that goal is so different. And this has a big impact on our ability to plan for financial goals. So it is not just about your career. It is not just about what you want to become in life. It is also about your financial goals, right? Every 5-year-old boy may say something like, oh, I want to become a tractor driver and all of that. But then the children may grow up, and when they are growing up, they'll be like, oh, okay, I don't want to become a tractor driver anymore. Now I want to become a lawyer. Now you grow up, you become a lawyer, you realize that it is not an easy job. Okay, this is it better if I become a stay-at-home mom? And then you realize that, oh, money is not coming in as much. So your plans may just change over time, right? So don't be dogmatic about your plans. Allow God to lead you and be flexible as well. It is not a cast in stone that because you have studied this course at the university, you must stick to it, even when you are not enjoying it, even though your life is miserable, even though you are so unhappy. But because this is what I studied at the university. Do you know that some people are like that? Right. Don't allow yourself to be like that. Now, let's come back to finances. Long-term financial planning is essential, but things change, including the world around you, including your own goals and desires. It is one thing to say, we don't know what the future holds. It is another thing to admit that you yourself don't know today what you will even want in the future, right? And the truth is, few of us do. We have desires, we have goals, we have ambitions and all of that. But then we shouldn't be dogmatic, right? We need to leave room for that flexibility. It's hard to make enduring long-term decisions when your view of what you will want in the future is likely to shift. You may be like, oh, let me start saving. I want a big house. I want to have a large family. And then as you are growing up, you realize, okay, what do I even need a large family for? I've been thinking, oh, maybe I'll have 7 children. And then you're growing, you're like, oh, it's so stressful taking care of children. Let me just have 2. So I don't need a big house after all. Let me just have a 3-bedroom apartment, right? So all the money that you have been saving up or investing, thinking that you spent to buy a house, your plan will change. And then you realize that you need to spend that money on something else. Gilbert's research shows people from age 18 to 68 underestimate how much they will change in the future. This is a critical time when people change their minds a lot. Of course, you are now a teenager. You are beginning to realize that life is not what you thought it would be, or the career that you thought that you would go into, or the kind of person you were thinking you would marry. Things will just change. Between 18 and 68, you tend to underestimate how much you will change, right? You can see how this can impact a long-term financial plan. Charlie Munger says the first rule of compounding is to never interrupt it unnecessarily. We've learned so much about compound interest and how this can be a game changer in our financial lives. But how do you not interrupt a money plan? Careers, investments, spending, budgeting, whatever, when what you want out of life changes. When the reason why you were investing in the first place has even changed, it is so hard. Part of the reason people like Ronald Reed, yes, if you remember Ronald Reed, one of the guys that we read about in this book at the very beginning, yes, the introduction, I think, is it chapter 1? No, I think it's the introduction. Ronald Reed, he was a janitor, right? But he died leaving nothing less than $8 million behind. People could not believe that this guy was so rich. And this was because he was financially disciplined. He maintained a modest life, even though he had a very humble beginning. Somebody like Warren Buffett, too, became so successful because he kept doing the same thing over and over again for decades. The same thing with Ronald Reed, saving, investing for decades. How many of us can do that, allowing our money to compound without interrupting it? So these guys, Warren Buffett and Ronald Reed, they allowed their compound interest to run wild, compound investment and all of that. But many of us evolve so much over a lifetime that we don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over. Not even for a decade, not even for 1 year. How many of us can do something consistently for 1 year? Can you? If you can, that's a good thing, because one thing that I realize is that as human beings, many of us change our minds a lot. We cannot stick through to something. And the big lesson here is endurance, right? Endurance. We should avoid the extreme ends of financial planning. Compounding works best when you can give a plan years or decades to grow. This is true for not only savings, but careers and relationships. Endurance is key And let's take a big cue from Ronald Reed and Warren Buffett. We can all say, oh, they are so successful. We've read so much about Warren Buffett and how he started investing when he was 10 years old and how compound interest worked for him. He had a choice to have lavished his money when he was a teenager, like every other a typical teenager would do. But he allowed his money to compound. See how successful he is today. The last time I checked, it was worth around $147 billion, right? So endurance is key. Thank you. Endurance is key to success. You will have so many reasons why you should break your savings, why you should withdraw your investments before it matures, why you shouldn't save at all, why you should do so many things with money right now. But if you are able to endure, if you are able to delay your gratification, if you are able to hold on because you are building something sustainable, right, you are going to enjoy it. It doesn't mean that you strain yourself so much, no, because balance is also key. When you consider our tendency to change, yes, that's right. When we consider our tendency to change who we are over time, balance at every point in your life becomes a strategy to avoid future regrets and encourage endurance. Balance. Balance everything. Be modest. Aiming at every point in your working life to have moderate annual savings, moderate free time, no more than a moderate commute, and at least moderate time with your family increases the odds of being able to stick with a plan and avoid regrets than if any one of those things fall to the extreme side of the spectrum. For example, you work and work and work from morning till night. You hardly have time for your family. That is an extreme thing to do. Or you become so extremely lazy, or you spend so lavishly to the extreme that you do not have any savings. So as much as you are enduring, try to balance things up. A little thing here, a little one there, a little savings here would go a long way. One investment or two here and there would help you. Spending time with your family, spending time with the people that matter, nurturing relationships. Don't allow extreme in any area of your life. Even the Bible says that we should do everything with modesty. Right, including our dressing, including everything. Yes, too much of everything is bad. I think that just sums it up. Thank you. The second thing, number one thing we've said about, there are two things to keep in mind when making what you think are long-term decisions. Number one, we should avoid the extreme ends of financial planning. We just talked about that. Number two, we should also come to accept the reality of changing our minds. Don't be dogmatic. Don't be. The fact that I studied medicine at the university does not mean that you must become a medical doctor at all costs. You've already become a medical doctor. It doesn't mean that you should practice. If you graduated and you feel that, oh, you are miserable being a medical doctor, that you really wanted to be a content creator, go for it. What is life if there is no happiness, if there is no fulfillment or satisfaction? Be free to change your mind. And I think a lot of times people are afraid to change their minds because of what people would say. Oh, what will people say that, hey, yeah, I hope he's not village people. He read medicine at school. Oh, now he's selling suya. Or now he's selling, I don't know if suya is common in every country. Let me see. Now he's selling juice, or he's selling cooked food at restaurants. He's a chef, something like that. Fear of what people would say. Even the fear of what people would say makes some people to die in marriages. Let me not even go there. Right? May we not live our lives in bondage of what people would of life, that nobody was saying anything. Nobody. Because everybody is busy trying to figure out their own complicated lives. So change your mind. Pray about it. Seek counsel. Don't go through life being miserable. Some of the most miserable, exactly, seeking other people's validation. That's the thing. You want people to keep hailing you on, you're such a fantastic lawyer. Oh my God. Meanwhile, you know that you are not fulfilled being a lawyer. You are just pushing yourself through. You are just struggling. Some of the most miserable workers I've met are people who stay loyal to a career only because it's the field they picked when deciding on a college major at age 18. Because you read that thing at the university, then you stick to it. The trick is to accept the reality of change and move on as soon as possible. Enjoy your life, free your mind, do what brings you fulfillment, right? I mean, life is too short for you to stick to something that makes you miserable. That's the way I think. I don't even mind. As long as it brings me fulfillment, I'm going to do it. I don't seek anybody's validation. As long as God approves what I'm doing, I'm okay. I do it. You are the one thinking of prestige of career. Oh, he has a prestigious career. He has a promising this. He has a beautiful family. So many beautiful family outside, which are rotten inside, you know. So be flexible. If you think that the path that you're going, you have decided to go south, but you're actually supposed to go north, you had better go north as soon as possible so that you can live a fulfilling life, right? Sunk costs, anchoring decisions to past efforts that can't be refunded. Don't live in regrets. You may have made some decisions in the past. Contexts change. Desires change. Sometimes we've said some things, I will never do this, I will never do that. But as you grow up, you realize that it's not what you were thinking, right? So be open to change. Anchoring decisions to past efforts that can't be refunded are a devil in a world where people change over time. They make our future selves prisoners to our past. The fact that you said you will never do something, and you think that, people will laugh at you because you said, apologize, I'm sorry, I didn't even know what I was saying there. Most times, some of us don't even know what we are saying. We say some things based on our current position or situation or context or our knowledge, current wisdom, right? Apologize, and if they want to laugh, let them laugh. We're all human beings. We are prone to mistakes. So I don't see these things as a big deal. Don't become a prisoner to your past, right? It's the equivalent of a stranger making major life decisions for you. Don't be a stranger to your own self. Exactly. Because someone else carries the load and it's not heavy, doesn't mean that it's not heavy. You are the one that really know what you want. You know what brings you happiness and fulfillment and what brings glory to God. You had better do it. Life is meant to be enjoyed, not endured, are meant to live a fulfilling life. Embracing the idea that financial goals made when you were a different person should be abandoned without mercy versus put on life support and dragged on can be a good strategy to minimize future regrets. So let there be balance. Don't be hell-bent on something. Even your financial goals, don't be hell-bent on it, right? The quicker it's done, the sooner you can get back to compounding. All right, next, let's talk about compounding's price of admission. Thank you so much. We've come to the end of the review of chapter 14, which is titled You'll Change. All right, don't forget to like this video. Drop all of your comments below and please subscribe to this channel in case you're yet to subscribe. I remain Olaide Agbaje, also known as First Lady, and on this channel, I inspire you to live intentionally. We're going to come together again by God's grace tomorrow, and we'll review chapter 15, which is titled Nothing is Free. All right. Until then, be intentional. Bye.